Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, I'm so glad to have Tony Jones back. Tony Jones, it's been a while since you've been on the podcast, but stuff just keeps coming up. I've been traveling, going to these college games. You've been on a crazy road trip because Utah has started with 16 of their first 24 games on the road. So how are you doing? How was your Thanksgiving, man?
Let's not even lie. You shunned me.
Shunned you. You were out for a while. Microphone situation cut you out
from the Game Theory.
No, it's just been crazy, man. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. As always, it is my pleasure and my honor to be a recurring teammate / coworker / friending guest of Game Theory.
Go read Tony's work on The Athletic. Like he said, we're teammates, and he does a great job over there. We're also going to be sponsored by Hims on this episode. We'll get to a little advertisement later. And, here are the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the team that Tony covers on a night-in, night-out basis, the Utah Jazz. They're 8-11 right now. As we said, they start with 16 of their first 24 on the road, so maybe we should have seen a bit of a slow start for them coming, but it's been a slower start than what I think most people envisioned coming into the year again. And then we're also going to talk about the Lakers. We're going to talk about some of the younger guys that we've seen in the NBA that have impressed, and then we're also going to talk about college guys, because Tony loves to talk college guys as much as I do. So with all that being said, I just want to ask you, how has life been? Like I said, you've been on the road here for a while. How are things treating you? How was Thanksgiving? How is everything going?
Well, it's been good. Thanksgiving was great. So I spent it. I was very blessed to spend it at home with the family, and like you said, we've all been in and out. Kind of in Salt Lake, and then kind of out on the road, and then back in Salt Lake and out on the road. So that part has been, it's always fun to go on the road, but I got to pack up my Xbox and unpack it and pack it and unpack it and all that stuff. So that part is good. It's, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I mean, when we looked at the Jazz's schedule in August, we were just like, wow, November, December, that's going to be brutal. So, they're about almost halfway through, 2 months of brutality, and then they'll have a 4-game trip at the turn of the year. And then after that, I mean, they've got a mountain of home games that they're going to have to make up. So it'll be interesting to see if how the Jazz navigate from now through the first of the year. I think that if they're in that 500 mark, give or take a few games, I think they'll be in a good position.
So yeah, they're 14th in the West right now. But even with that being said, they're like 2 games out of the playoffs. So it's really not that big of a deal that they're that far down. They're not actually losing a whole lot of ground here with this crazy start to the season. But what I'm a little bit more worried about is just the way that they're playing.
Right.
They're just not playing well.
Right.
Like if they were playing well and losing tight games on the road,
right,
that'd be one thing. Like it'd be understandable that this was happening. But you're sitting here in a situation where they're 26th in offensive rating. This was certainly supposed to be a season where we all thought their offense would pick up a little bit. They're 14th in defensive rating, which is a shocker for kind of a lot of reasons, given what this team has done in its recent past. They're expected to win losses right in line with what it should be. This is not a situation where they're blowing teams out and then losing tight games, and their net rating is positive, and you assume that this is coming. Like, they've played at an 8-11 level so far. And I guess I'll start with you, just because you see them night in and night out. I'll kind of give you my take just watching from afar. I've probably watched maybe 8 Jazz games this year out of 20, like something in that range. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm watching as many Jazz games as like Jazz fans, but I've watched a decent amount. Where are you at with this Jazz team right now? What is causing these issues?
Well, they're not playing well. I mean, and that's the thing, and you can't hide the elephant in the room, and that's a gigantic elephant in the room, and it's obvious. They're just not playing well. They're not executing Offensively, they're not executing. Defensively, I think that the defense is a bigger issue than the offense. I think the offensive rating is a little skewed, especially they had a 68-point game against Denver, against Dallas. I'm sorry. They had an 83-point game against the Lakers where they didn't really play really well. But there have been games where I think that offensively they've been really good, and I think that offensively, I think they've done enough offensively overall, despite being 26th in rating, 27th in points per game. That if that defense was where it should be, the 8-11 record would be at least flipped. They'd be at least 11-8, and maybe 12-7. Maybe even 12-7. So I think that just in my opinion, I think that the defense is a far bigger issue than what's going on with the Jazz offensively. The defense has been a mess. The guards haven't stayed in front of opposing guards. Rudy Gobert hasn't protected the rim at his usual rate. Teams are shooting very, very well against the Jazz, where you don't anticipate teams shooting well against them. And, there have been some games where the Jazz have just flat out been boat raced because of how they defended. And that's where you see some of that stuff and you're just like, wow, those are alarms. And you look and you say, okay, well, is freedom of movement affecting the Jazz? Maybe you can say that in the first, couple of weeks, but, at the same time, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I just think that guys just aren't staying in front. And I think, the Jazz have to figure that out. And if they can get that, defensive rating into the top 5, top 6, top 3, where they're, where they anticipate that stuff to be, then I think that they can turn that stuff around. But I think right now it begins with the defense, and that's what needs to be fixed most of all.
So here are the two numbers that kind of are both good and bad for Utah for me right now on defense. Last year, they were obviously ridiculous at protecting the rim, right? If you look in the half court, they were 5th in shots around the basket that were not post-ups in half court settings, and they were 10th in post-ups defending in half court settings, according to Synergy. This year, they're at 25th in the league. They're giving up 60% at the basket in half court settings at the rim. And with a team with Rudy Gobert, that is just bananas. And they're 23rd in post-up defense as well, allowing 51% on those shots. Like on a team with Rudy Gobert, you would expect them to, at the very least, be top 10 and realistically probably top 5, especially when you consider that they play most of their minutes with one of him or Derek Favors on the floor to protect the rim. So, and Derek Favors, as you and I have talked about many times, we think he's a pretty drastically underrated defensive player and certainly protector of the rim inside. So that number is frightening to me in a lot of ways. And I think it has a lot to do with how they're giving up perimeter penetration. You mentioned that the guards are not necessarily staying in front in the way that you would expect. If you look at the way that they've been defending so far in pick and roll settings, they're 19th, so they're bottom half of the league in pick and roll settings. They've been struggling to tag roll men as well in those settings. They've really struggled with dribble handoff plays too. From what I've seen, they're actually 29th in the league in defending those whenever those lead to shots or turnovers or possession finishing plays. So I look at that, and that stuff kind of scares me. I think Donovan has taken like kind of a small step back defensively this year. He just hasn't quite been as active as what I thought he was last year. It's just like kind of a weird spot right now. Like I think Dante Exum is a really good defender. I think Royce O'Neal's a really good defender, but I don't know if Ricky has been a great defender so far. It's just like kind of a weird spot for them.
Well, I think Dante's been good. I think Royce has been good. I think that Joe Ingles has been good.
Joe has done what you would expect of him defensively.
Yeah.
He's a smart defender. He's not not a possession altering defender though.
And I think but you can't. It just runs into a conundrum with Quinn Snyder. Right now, his best offensive players are not his best defensive players, and his best defensive players are not his best offensive players.
Yeah,
and he's not getting two-way play from many guys on the team, and that's forcing some really difficult decisions. If Royce O'Neal were going out there and knocking down 40% from 3-point range, it would be a lot easier to keep him on the floor. If Dante Exum were shooting 40% from 3-point range, he might be starting by now. It forces Quinn to make some really difficult choices, and there are some nights where he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because of it. So, what the Jazz need, they need guys to start performing on both ends of the floor, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do against Sacramento, because Donovan Mitchell's not going to play. So it'll be interesting to see if they go offense and put Alec Burks in the lineup, or if they go defense and start Royce O'Neal in place of Donovan Mitchell. So, but here's the thing. You hit the nail on the head on so many of these things: dribble handoffs, allowing guys to get into the mid-range, allowing guards to touch the paint, not being able to defend at the rim when guards get all the way to the basket. I've never seen so many guards get all the way to the basket with so much success against Gobert. I've never seen so many bigs, namely Willie Cauley-Stein, who the Jazz are going to play tonight, post Gobert up with so much success in isolation. So there's so many things that you can say, and that's why I've just been on Twitter, and people are like, well, what's wrong with the defense? Everything is wrong with the defense. Yeah. Every single thing, like every single part. The Jazz aren't defending on the perimeter. They're not defending in the post. They're not keeping teams out of transition. They're not defending without fouling, so they're not keeping teams off the foul line. They're not defending the 3-point line. They're not doing anything well defensively.
And by the way, they're not doing anything well defensively. And for the season, they're still about an average defensive team.
Right.
I think that tells you what the ceiling is with this team defensively.
Right. Exactly. So, when this team is right, I think it's the best defensive team in the league, or one of the two best, with the Warriors being the other. Now, I think that Toronto's risen to the point where, they're definitely in that conversation. I thought Boston should be in that conversation. But the Jazz should always, with the personnel they have, with the coaching they have, with the schemes they have, they should always be in that top 3, 4, 5 at the very least. And right now they're 14th, and that's a problem. Because then you say, well, you know what? The Jazz can't score, and they can't do this, and they can't do that offensively, and I've been telling people, they've scored enough, they've done enough offensively that if the defense were where it should be, that they be fine right now. Yeah. And it's just kind of startling to me, just how much of a learning curve the defense has had to undergo this season.
Yeah, I think that's right. But let's talk about the offense now. Let's go to the 26th ranked offense in the league. It's kind of strange to me, just in general, that last season, the lineup that had almost as much success as any lineup in the NBA, they played almost 500 minutes and had a plus 12.4 net rating, was Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, Ricky Rubio, Derek Favors, and Rudy Gobert. This year, that same lineup is a negative 1.7 net rating, and they've lost most of it coming on the offensive end with a 97 net rating when those 5 play together. Why do you think that is? Is part of it just Donovan is missing shots? He's shooting, I think, under 30% from 3 right now, and that'll revert up at some point because he's a better shooter than this at this stage of his career. Where are we at on what ails the starting offense with the Utah Jazz?
Right. Well, it's right now. It's it's got to be Ricky Rubio.
Mm-hmm. I think that's right too.
And you know, I'm almost to the point where I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna sound crazy, but I think the Jazz go as Ricky Rubio goes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go as Rudy Gobert goes, or as Donovan Mitchell goes, to the point of where they go with Ricky Rubio goes. Now let me explain that. Now obviously Ricky Rubio is not the best player on the team. But he is the barometer. He is the guy that when this guy plays well, the Jazz are going to win 80% of the time. And when he does not play well, they're probably going to lose almost 100% of the time. And that's how important he is to what they are doing right now. You know, when he can shoot the ball well and he can make teams respect his jump shot, to the point where they have to space out on him, which opens up the Joe Ingles, Rudy Gobert pick and roll, which opens up Donovan Mitchell's driving lanes, which opens up pace and space for Jay Crowder, which opens up, you know, just kind of everything. When he's running the fast break well, when he's pushing the ball after made baskets and getting him into sets and getting the Jazz into sets with plenty of time on the shot clock. You know, the Jazz are difficult to beat, but when he's playing like he's playing right now, they're really easy to beat. And you know, and Ricky's probably had about 2 or 3 really good Ricky Rubio games this season, and the rest of the season has been a struggle. And it's been like that on both ends of the floor. It's been like that offensively. You know, he's shooting 32% from 3, where it's kind of where that number's probably needs to be up by 36, 37%. He's not finishing at the rim. You know, that's something
he's never done, though.
And that's something he's never done. You know, but you know, the Jazz know about that. But it's the other stuff that he has to do that he hasn't done. Like, he's got to stay in front of the opposing point guard. He hasn't done that. He's got to keep his turnovers down. He hasn't done that.
That's a big thing I wanted to kind of mention with the offense. Their turnover number is crazy right now. Like, they're in the bottom really 5 teams in the NBA.
Turnover percentage, right?
In turnover percentage, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, that's not what you expect.
Isn't their turnover percentage around 17 right now?
Yeah, it is. And that's not what you expect out of Utah. I mean, I guess that they had a 15.7 last year, but like, when I think of the Jazz, I think of like a well-drilled offense, a team that tends to make like the right decision outside of the occasional like shitty Donovan Mitchell contested jump shot that Donovan is capable of making, but like it just kind of misses or makes sometimes. Still probably like a negative efficiency shot. It's just very strange to correlate this smart, high IQ Utah Jazz team with as many turnovers as they commit.
Well, I will say this. There's a lot of opportunity within the Jazz offense from possession to possession to commit a turnover. Because I got to watch every team, but I mean, they go through so many actions within a 24-second possession. That, you know, sometimes it's easy for them to turn the basketball over. That being said, you know, having a 17 turnover percentage, I mean, you're going to be an 8-11 team. I mean, there's so many numbers that you can throw out that tell you why the Jazz are where they are right now. You know, so I mean, and that's one of the things that starts with Rubio. I mean, they've got to stop turning the basketball over. They've got to get more shots up. And they've got to start making the shots. And that's the other thing. They're not making the shots. Right now, I think are they last in the NBA in three-point percentage?
27th, I believe.
They're 27th.
Yeah, so 31%.
So, I mean, you know, they're near the bottom. They're not shooting the ball well. They're not making the shots they do. They do generate. You know, they generate a lot of wide-open shots, but a lot of those wide-open shots are conceded to Rubio and Donovan Mitchell. You know, teams are contesting Joe Ingles a lot. They're contesting Mitchell a lot. So, you know, I said Donovan Mitchell that they're leaving open. I meant to say Dante Exum.
Yeah.
You know, so this is the problem. They're turning the ball over way too much. and
they're
missing way
shots.
too many free throws, and they're not missing shots, and they're not making shots, and they're not defending. I mean, it is a smorgasbord of maladies that are dooming the Jazz right now.
Typically,
and that being said,
typically when you have such a just across the board number of problems, that is what strikes me as a team ripe for like a shakeup move, right? In Utah's case, I don't know that I would do that. Like I just don't for some reason. I mean, I would probably wait until maybe, I would say January 14th. That's when they start to get into like a little home stretch of games, maybe even January 23rd. That's when they start to like finally catch up in terms of home games and road games being pretty close to equal. Like they even have 21 of their first 33 on the road. So like part of me is just like, we need to see where this team is later in the season before we panic and start to make a shakeup.
Right. Well, so you had that 4-game trip at the turn of the year, which is Toronto, Cleveland, Detroit, and Milwaukee. And then after that trip, you have 8 of 9 at home, and that 9th on the road is
Minnesota.
Okay, so you're at starting January 9th. They have 8 of 9 at home. That 9th is the Los Angeles Clippers. Then you go on the road for 2 at Minnesota, at Portland. Then you have another 4 at home, which is like Atlanta, Houston, Phoenix, and San Antonio. So you're basically playing 13 and 16 at home from January 9th to February 9th. So in those 16, you have Orlando, you have Chicago, you have Detroit, you have Cleveland, you have Minnesota, you have Atlanta, you have Phoenix, and you have San Antonio. I mean, so you have eight games against teams that are currently not in the playoff picture. Of those 13 that are at home. So, that's, it's a prime time for, it's a schedule designed for the Jazz to be able to make up some ground.
Yeah, it is.
So if you don't make up ground in that time, then guess what? you might have a roster shakeup a little bit.
Yeah, I think that I would go a little bit earlier than that. So like they have this Magic, Lakers, Bulls, Pistons stretch, right?
Yeah.
And then like even the Cleveland game here on January 18th. Like January 14th, January 18th, if they're not figuring it out yet, that would be, I think, my window to like look into a move. And like I think I would start with Ricky Rubio being the move. I think that there's probably a couple teams out there that would consider him. Like I saw Matt Moore tweet that he thought that it would be funny if the Timberwolves and Jazz just swapped point guards. And I do think there's some validity to that, but Jeff Teague's like not exactly a great defender, so I don't know how he would necessarily work with Quinn Snyder in this defensive scheme. He's just not strong enough on ball typically. So I don't really know what the move is for them, but they have enough pieces. They have enough roster flexibility. They have enough salary flexibility in terms of guys that are somewhere between like 7 million and 15 million that they could really go out and kind of make any move here that they wanted to. The crazy thing would be, to me, this is like kind of the prime Bradley Beal spot. If they really wanted to like go crazy with it and like do something like that, this is like, they're kind of the exact team that I look at as someone who should get into the Bradley Beal sweepstakes, who typically wouldn't be in like the superstar sweepstakes, just because he has 3 years left on his deal, or at least 3 playoff runs left on his deal. He fits well with Donovan Mitchell on the floor, hopefully, you would think. He does play okay defense. Like, he's not going to be like an above average defender, but he's not going to kill you defensively. And he would absolutely transform their biggest weakness, which is the jump shooting.
Well, so I think, and here's the thing. I mean, we're talking hypothetically, right? I mean, I've talked to a Jazz source in the front office, and this is what they said. Like, look, we didn't bring this group back to give up on it within 20 games.
Right. This is all hypothetical. If we're in 45 games down the road,
right,
and this still hasn't turned.
Right. So, I mean, right now, currently, today, I mean, this front office is committed to this group.
Right.
Now, that being said, and this is just Tony Jones speaking, if the Jazz were to want to make a run at Bradley Beal, I think they could make a really credible run at Bradley Beal, because they could offer Washington something that not a lot of teams can right now, and that's a way out of their financial hell.
Yeah,
because the Jazz have a bunch of expiring contracts that they can offer, that and you can throw some picks in there. So yeah, so they gave Jan Mahimi $64 million. They gave John Wall $200 million. Otto Porter. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, they're basically in a financial bind as deep as any team in the league. So, a team like the Jazz could offer significant cap relief in a Bradley Beal deal. But that's just, as I said, that's just me talking. I don't have any indication from the Jazz front office that they're seriously trying to pursue something like that. Yeah,
like you could do, really, like Dante Exum is probably a better trade chip than what Washington will end up with in a lot of cases. Or like if they wanted to go like Otto Porter, you could do something like Dante Exum and Ricky Rubio and like a first for Otto Porter. Like that seems useful to me. Dante can be a guy that you can build around long term. Dante could also be the centerpiece of a Bradley Beal deal. That would make sense to me. So like the Jazz have options here, and I think that they line up well with Washington.
Yeah, I do too. And
like you said too, I'm sorry to cut across you, but like if they wanted to take on, or if they were willing to take on Jan Mahimi, like that I would imagine. I would be surprised if Utah did that.
That'd be tough. I don't see the Jazz doing something like that.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they did that. But like that's probably their way to do it. Almost is like say, hey, we'll take that money. Which is
here's the thing, right? So the Jazz want another perimeter stud.
Yeah,
and that's something that they've really wanted, and part of the reason that they brought this group back was to bring them all back on 1-year deals so they could all clear the books next year for free agency, right?
To me, it's not just free agency though. Like the reason that you clear the books is so that you can use some of these guys, at least if you're Utah, is that you have the flexibility to go get your guy via trade or maybe via free agency. But like, look, man, like Utah is not exactly the prime free agency destination for a lot of these guys.
Right. But they have a real affinity for Chris Middleton.
Mm-hmm.
The Jazz do. Now I'm pretty sure Milwaukee does as well. I'm pretty sure the Lakers do.
I will say I will be surprised if Chris Middleton leaves Milwaukee.
Yeah. I mean, the point is they want to have the financial flexibility to be players in free agency. Now, here's what I'm getting at. What's the difference between Bradley Beal and Chris Middleton? I think Chris Middleton's probably a better player, but Bradley Beal is
6 years younger, something like
real
that.
Dynamic scorer. I mean, he's like, I think the world of Bradley Beal. I think he's a dynamic scorer from all three levels. He can hit you mid-range. He can hit you 3-point range. He can get to the bucket. And I think that, obviously along with Donovan Mitchell, but I think he's an isolation scorer in the clutch.
Can you believe that Bradley Beal is under 2 years younger than Chris Middleton?
Yeah, he's 25.
I thought Chris Middleton was like 29. That's my fault. That's my fault more than anything.
Yeah, well, Chris is what, 27?
Yeah, he's 27.
Yeah, he's still really young.
Yeah, man, that throws me off a little bit. I agree with you, though. I think Chris is a little bit better.
Well, Chris does. I mean, Chris is such a playmaker, and he's a great defender, and, you can so Bradley Beal fits with the Jazz in terms of a B+ manner to me. Chris Middleton fits with the Jazz in an A+ manner.
Yeah.
Because you can play him at the 2 to 3 or the 4.
Yeah. Yep.
You can pretty much play Bradley Beal pretty much only at the 2, but you can move Donovan Mitchell to the 1, and you can make, Joe Ingles your primary half-court ball handler, if you will.
And Brad can do some of that too.
Brad can do some of that, and Donovan can do some of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Rudy Gobert in back defensively, even though that hasn't worked out well yet this year.
We should feel pretty good about the fact that Rudy Gobert will be a good defender again.
Yeah, he's gonna come around at some point, right?
Yeah.
So the point is this: the Jazz, they know that if they make a move for one of these expensive guys, that they're done. This is their team for the foreseeable future. So they have, like, in terms of getting that next guy, they have one really big move in them, to me, right? So they have to use it really judiciously, because once they make that really big move, that's their team. The rest of it is building around that team.
Yep.
So this one of the reasons why I don't think that you're going to go see them go out and get Otto Porter, because he's making max money.
What's the opportunity cost too of giving up like your trade pieces? Because Utah's not loaded with guys that I think would be super attractive to other teams that also they are willing to get rid of as well. So I think I agree with you. They have one move. They have like one big game breaker move. And that's why Beal makes sense to me, because he's under contract for 3 years.
Right.
He matches
that's why Beal does make sense.
Yeah.
Just because of that, because you will have him for 2 more years after this year.
Yeah, he matches up exactly with Rudy's deal, exactly with Joe's deal. You have Donovan for the foreseeable future, so that's not a big deal. But like, he allows you to, and if you don't move Dante in that deal, although I find it hard to believe that you could get Bradley Beal without moving Dante, that like he lines up with Dante's deal as well. So like, that's just kind of the time frame for me. That's the piece where like I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is the guy that they should push their chips in for.
But the question is, does Washington want to come off of that?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they're ripe for a breakup. It depends on if Ted Leonsis is willing to deal John Wall. I think more than anything, because
I don't. How do you deal John Wall?
Well, you deal him for like nothing. You deal him for like 30 cents on the dollar of what he was in the past, just to get off of the money, and then you build around Brad, which is what I would do. I would deal John Wall for whatever I could get for John Wall, and then just build around Brad, because I can't imagine those two sticking together long term over the next like 5 years. Maybe Brad has to be stuck there for 3 years, and oh God, I would feel bad for Brad. But like, it's just hard for me to see that continuing to work in a positive manner.
Yeah.
So it's why it comes down to me with Ted Leonsis and what Ted wants to do. Because if Ted decides, you know what, John Wall is he's our guy. He's the guy that we have our marketing built around. He's the guy that, was first here and he's our leader, and I want to keep that guy, then I don't know how you keep Brad.
Well, I think the thing with John Wall is you're paying him $200 million. So I just think that I think you're stuck with him.
And you're not trading him for the next year because of the trade kicker.
Well, you can try, but he's got that trade kicker, which is ridiculous. And, I think that the only team that can really, there's one team out there that I think, that makes sense, and that's probably the Lakers.
For John Wall?
Yeah.
Oh God, I hate that idea so much. And we'll transition we'll transition into the Lakers here real quick. Oh God, do I hate that idea so much.
It's the only thing that makes sense.
Miami makes sense, I think, because Miami, you could convince yourself that like, okay, they star hunt and they specifically get guys into shape with their conditioning program.
Is Ted Leonsis going to take back all of that dead weight that Miami has?
Maybe, because some of it might not be that dead. Like,
like Bam.
If you could get Bam and you could get Kelly Olynyk. Well, I don't think you're getting both Bam and Josh for John Wall.
Then why are you doing that? Then why would you even make that?
Just specifically to get off the money, because John Wall's been like kind of sneaky bad this year. Like, you're doing it only to get off of the money, I think, and getting like one young piece in return. Like, And because you think that Brad and John probably aren't going to want to coexist together for a long time. It's tough. Like, it's a tough move, I think.
I like, if I'm Washington, I'm just hanging up unless Josh Richardson is a centerpiece of the deal.
Okay, let's say it's Josh. Let's say it's Josh and Kelly, and then if you do it this summer, you have to throw something else in. So, like, let's say it's like James Johnson. So if you're getting Josh Kelly and James Johnson for John Wall, you're building now around Bradley Beal, Josh Richardson, Otto Porter, and kind of pieces. We'll just call them like pieces, right? And then you can decide if you want to keep Otto or not too. My guess is that Otto Porter is probably not on the Washington Wizards at some point within the next calendar year, just because he's the guy that makes the most sense to me to move. They're just like, everything lines up well to move him, is my guess. But like, I don't know. Like, they're screwed no matter what they do, I guess, is my thing. Unless you just decide to get off of all of the money somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. Ugh. That's a rock and a hard place.
So let's move to the Lakers. So like you mentioned the Lakers. The reason that I think the Lakers don't really make sense is because I think they'll want Brad Beal. And I think that they will decide we're only going to give up our best pieces for Beal and not John Wall.
Right. Not here Brad wants to go to the Lakers anyway.
Not a crazy thought, I don't think. Like that would make a lot of sense to me. The other team that I think makes a lot of sense, and I mentioned this on the last podcast, is the Clippers. Say the Clippers were willing to do something like Tobias Harris and like Jerome Robinson, or like let's say like Tobias Harris and like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for Bradley Beal. I think it's a bad idea, but hear me out. Here's why
Shai's untouchable.
Here's why you do this though. Well, no. It'd have to be Danilo Gallinari. You'd have to throw in like Gallinari and Shai Alexander. The reason that you could make an argument that makes sense is that you could have Bradley Beal plus 2 max cap spots, and you could say, hey, we've got our top 25 player in place already for the next 2 years. Come join this guy, is a pitch to free agents.
I mean, you can have Jerome Robinson and Danilo Gallinari and a couple of our first-round picks, but you can't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's untouchable. I think
the Lakers top that offer, though. And like the way that, if you're the Clippers, the way that you can top the Lakers offer is by throwing in Shai, I think.
I think Shai is going to be a monster.
So do I, but Bradley Beal's already a monster, and you can't really sell other free agents on Shai, I don't think.
What if you getting Kawhi next year?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, isn't your sales pitch to Kawhi, hey, we're going to compete now? And isn't Brad a better piece to compete now than Shai is?
Tobias Harris and
Jerome, it has to be Gallinari.
It has to be Gallo. It can't be Tobias.
To keep the 2 max cap spots, it has to be Gallo.
I'd cry if I were Doc.
But if you're Doc, you're getting Bradley Beal and you have 2 max cap spots. So, like, yeah, it sucks for this year. But then I'm
giving up a point guard that can be an all-star.
But you're getting a shooting guard that is an all-star.
Yeah.
But, like, I love Shai, too. I think he's a great player. What are the odds he's as good as Bradley Beal? Like, that is still, like, an 80th percentile outcome for him, probably. Even being as good as he is now.
I mean, let's say, okay, so right now, who's the best player in the draft right now?
Probably Zion. Or are you talking about
last year? I'm talking about in this draft, this rookie class that's in the league right now.
It's Luka. It's Luka or DeAndre, probably. It's probably Luka, just straight up.
Well, I think it's probably Luka, and I think second is Jaren Jackson.
You can make that. I'm totally fine with that. If you want to.
I think Jaren is special. I
agree with you. Jaren's very, very good, and it's the light is coming on quick with Jaren, by the way, too.
Yeah, that dude he's something else, and I'm talking about he's something else on both ends.
I mean, that's what we talked about last year on the podcast. Like, to me, he was by far the best defensive prospect in the draft.
Well, we talked about Jaren. Yeah. Me and you talked about him, and I said he's Kevin Garnett defensively.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, and I remember saying that, and we talked about that. Here's the surprise: he's been really good offensively.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, really good.
I did not expect this offensively this quickly. Not even a little bit. In his last,
not even close.
His 20-point games in his last 9 games. He's averaging 15 points in his last 9 games.
So I knew that Memphis was going to be good because of Conley and Gasol, but Jaren has turned him into a monster because he's become a foundational piece.
Yeah, he has.
Okay, so we digress.
I think you are right though that most GMs would still probably take Luka over both Jaren and.
Oh, Luka's a flat out monster, and we talked about that too.
And like by the way, DeAndre has been really good. Like we should mention that as well. DeAndre is averaging 16.5 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 2.8 assists, shooting 61% from the field. Those numbers in 90% of seasons win you Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it won't this year though.
No, it won't, because Luka is just unbelievable.
But so outside of those three, has Shai been number 4?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't decided which one I would take of him or Trae Young yet.
I'm taking Shai because Shai can defend.
Yeah, but Trey's been really good on offense.
Trey's been really good. Trey's now that's the one I've been wrong on because I did not expect Trey to be nearly as good as he's been. Not nearly, and I did think that he'd be a pro because. And not because of his shooting and scoring, but because of how good a passer that he is. He's a next level passer.
Yeah. But
I didn't expect him to be anywhere near as good as he's been.
I mean, I'll throw a name out there. Like Colin Sexton's been really good since Ty Lue got fired.
Well, he's been really good since like all of his veterans was like, "Yo, he's trash,"
which is crazy. Like. Cavs fans gave up on him after 4 games. The vets gave up on him after 6 games. And like since then, all he's done is averaged like 16 points on a 57% true shooting percentage. Like,
I watched him last night against Houston, and he was just possession after possession after possession after possession, just isolating against James Harden and just going to work.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
He can get separation with ease. That was the thing that I talked about pre-draft with him. He was the guy that I trusted most, along with Trae. Trae gets really good separation, but with Trae, it's all separation backward typically. With Colin, he gets separation going forward toward the basket as well as going backward. He's just not as good enough shooter yet. But just because he's so quick, like I always believed in that kind of working out.
Yeah. He's
still really bad defensively. Like we should mention that. But like,
well, yeah, he's really bad defensively.
But I think he'll figure it. Like he's been really good. Like he's been among the better rookies. He's probably not as good as Shai though. Is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Shai probably is
number 4.
I think that's right. Miles Bridges has been really good too. But I think you're probably right.
Well, Miles has been kind of role guyish.
Yeah, for sure.
He's been good, but he's been like, come in, catch and shoot, 3-and-D.
Go out and transition.
Get out and transition, get on Sports Center once a week.
Yeah.
I
think you're right that Shai right now has probably been the 4th best rookie.
I mean, and so if you look at that and you look at his upside, I mean, I don't know, man. I'd have a hard time giving him up. Even for Bradley Beal, I'd have a hard time giving him up.
Under normal circumstances, I would agree with you. The only thing that throws me is the free agency aspect of it all. The fact that you could use Brad to convince guys like Kawhi and all these other dudes to come.
Well, I mean, it's game over if the Lakers go ahead and get Durant, right?
Probably. Yeah, I think that's true. I don't know if they're going to, but like, who knows? That's the other thing too. Like, is Kevin Durant more likely to choose the Clippers if they have Bradley Beal or if they have Shai Alexander?
Well, I mean, I thought with the Clippers, I mean, the elephant in the room is Kawhi Leonard.
Right. Like, I would assume Kawhi is the most likely guy with the Clippers, but I would think that your first call is still probably Kevin, right?
Yeah, still probably Kevin.
So,
even though Kawhi has been terrific this year.
So, yeah, like, if it comes down to Bradley Beal versus Shai Alexander, I would still make that move. I would still trade Shai for Bradley Beal, knowing that it could be a circumstance where by next year Shai is averaging like 18 and 7.
I mean, can we just take a few minutes to talk about how good De'Aaron Fox has been from year 1 to year 2?
I love De'Aaron. I've talked a lot about De'Aaron on this podcast. He is the best. He's just been so good. I think he's the most improved player in the NBA.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, like just from year 1 to year 2, it's been unbelievable.
He turned into a franchise point guard, and he just single-handedly made Sacramento a playoff contender.
Yeah,
and I think they're a playoff contender. I watched them last night, against Golden State. Sacramento's legit. I'm going into this game with the Jazz and the Kings, thinking that the Jazz have very little chance of winning this game.
Yeah, part of this is that I don't think they're gonna stick. Like, we're starting to see Bjelica come back to earth a little bit. I think that they're probably gonna move him on Shumpert at some point, who has been a very good player for them, which is like, given where he was at some point, like even this offseason, that's like kind of crazy. You do hear the rumblings about, like, Chris Haynes reporting that the Kings like are not super happy with the way Dave Yeager is handling Marvin Bagley's minutes. So, like, I think that stuff is all eventually going to kind of catch up with them. But they've gotten Bogdan back, and Bogdan has been maybe a little bit less efficient shooting twos than you would expect, but he's been pretty good so far for them. He's been exactly what they were hoping, I think, off the bench. And I don't know, man. I think they're going to fall off a little bit. I think it's like a 35 win team, not a 45 win team.
Maybe if they had drafted Luka. Okay.
Dude, no.
See, you know what? I'm sorry. They could have look, Sam. They could have had Luka and De'Aaron
and Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's averaging 19 points.
We haven't talked about how good Buddy Hield has become.
Buddy's really good, and that's something that, like, I love it more than anything. I love Buddy.
Buddy buckets.
Yeah, like Buddy is averaging 19 on a 59% true shooting percentage while shooting 45% from three, and like, I don't think he's a 45% 3-point shooter, if only because, like, there are like two of those in the league right now. But he's definitely over a 40% 3-point shooter.
He's really good.
He's unbelievable. I saw him this summer playing out here at UCLA, and I was like, he looks a little bit different. He looks a little bit better going toward the basket. The handle stuff that he showed the last year of college, I think it kind of took like a year and a half for him to figure out how to use that in the NBA. And you saw it late last season a little bit. And then I saw it this summer really come around against guys like Dante, who can really defend, and against guys, that go down to UCLA. I mean, you're talking about just a ridiculous number of NBA players who come out here to LA. But, like, you see it, and he can get to the basket in so much of an easier way. And, like, it was bizarre to me last year that they didn't play De'Aaron and Buddy together more. If you remember correctly, they brought Buddy off the bench a bunch last season and started De'Aaron, and they played very few minutes together. This is why that struck me as weird, because they have been awesome together. Yeah,
they've been really good together, and Buddy's been really good, and De'Aaron's been really good. I actually think Bogey's been good. Watching him against the Jazz,
he's been fine.
He's really just kind of just did so many of the little things. Marvin Bagley's been good. I don't want to crap on Marvin Bagley, because he's been good.
Yeah.
And he gives them, that's the thing. He gives them, him and Willie Cauley-Stein, both of those guys are elite athletes, and they complement the skill of the perimeter guys.
Yep.
I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed by what the Kings have talent wise. I'm impressed by Dave Yeager, the way he's handling them. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Let's talk about the Lakers real quick, because we digressed in like 45 different directions.
This is what we do, Sam.
It really is. It really is what we do. Every single time we podcast, and it's funny. But before we do that, 66% of men lose their hair by the age of 35. Tony, I'm sorry, but you were one of those people, weren't you? Because I certainly am one of those people.
This is going in a bad direction.
Oh, man. The thing is, though, is that when you start to notice hair loss, it's too late. It's easier to keep the hair you got than to replace the hair you've lost. If that hairline's slowly starting to move backward, you don't want to feel like in a year from now that, I should have done something. I should have, back in November 2018, I should have finally made that move to go get Hims. And 4hims.com is a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men. It's a really, really great product. And the best part about it all is that Thanks to real doctors and medical grade solutions, you can treat hair loss now. These are well-known generic equivalents to name brand prescriptions to help you keep the hair you have. These are real prescription solutions backed by science. These are not gas station counter supplements, whatever you find on the road. There's no waiting room, no awkward doctor visits. You save hours by going to forhims.com. It is so easy. You just answer a few questions and the doctor will review and will prescribe for you. And then the products are shipped directly to your door. My listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today while supplies last. See the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/game theory. That's GAMETHEORY. FORHIMS.com/game theory. Forhims.com/game theory. And you'll get that trial month of Hims for just $5. Let's talk about the Lakers. The Lakers have righted the ship, as basically everyone assumed they would at some point. If I remember correctly, they have won something like, I believe it's like 7 of 8, like right in that range, right?
Yeah.
And in those 7 of 8 wins, and I'm actually not sure what they did against Orlando this afternoon. But
do you want a spoiler alert?
Yes, I do.
They lost.
Okay. Orlando has been sneaky good, by the way. And we should at some point, maybe not this podcast, but another podcast, talk about that. We've seen some just ridiculous LeBron James performances. Like what he did against Portland was one of, I don't know if like we can say vintage LeBron, because vintage LeBron is
like it suggested it only comes out once every blue moon, and
right.
He's still doing it.
Like, and then he drops the 51 against Miami. He has the ridiculous game against Cleveland, back in Cleveland, where he goes for like 32, 14, and 7. I mean, I don't even know what to do with this guy anymore. He's just unbelievable. And over the last, really what I guess since the 10th game. So let's say the Lakers' 11th game through the 18th game. He's averaged 31 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. And he's shooting 54% and 49% from 3 during that time. He is just completely unbelievable. There's like nothing about him that is not an alien.
Well, he's still the best player in the league.
Yeah.
So
like no question in my mind.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that's so hilarious because, every year around the 3rd week of the season, we're like, well, who's the best player in the league now? And they throw out all these names. Yeah. And then, LeBron gets warmed up because, he never really asserts himself in the first month of a season.
Yeah.
And then, he gets warmed up and then, by December, we're all like, well, LeBron's still the best player in the league.
Yeah, it's just lights out every time. Never fails.
The thing that I think LeBron should get so much credit for is that and I've said this before, he's improved his skill level 100% in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Improved his off the dribble game, improved his jump shot, improved his mid post game. He realized, like, it was like, he woke up one day and he said, you know what? I'm not going to have this athleticism and first step forever.
By the way, like, he doesn't have it anymore. Like, he has a great first step, but like when he was 25 or like that first year in Miami,
right,
totally different player,
Right, exactly. And the second thing is, I mean, even though he doesn't have that first step and he doesn't jump as high, well, guess what? I mean, he jumps so high that like he doesn't jump as high, and he's still one of the top 5 athletes in the league.
Yeah.
So now you have a guy. Yes, he's 34 years old. Well, he'll be 34 on December 30th. But he's still, rather than being the greatest basketball athlete of all time, he's still, one of the NBA's top 5 athletes. But guess what? He's still one of the 3 best pure basketball players.
Yeah.
So you put that in the 6'8" frame, and you put it in a guy who knows how to take care of his body, and a guy who says, you know what, guess what? I'm not going to play defense on most nights because I'm going to save my energy and I'm going to preserve myself. You still have a guy who's capable of throwing up 28, 8, and 8 in his sleep. Well, that's just how it is, and he's got some really dynamic athletes that he's playing with. And I'm, I realized, I think in the first 3 weeks, I say, you know what, LeBron's going to get one in LA, if not two. And it's probably not going to be this year, obviously. But they're going to, he's so elite that they're still going to go get an elite elite player, maybe two. And I think that, that coupled with the Warriors probably losing Durant, LeBron's going to have a chance to absolutely get at least one during the life of this contract.
I think the big question is just who they get this summer. We'll see what that ends up being. But let's kind of talk about the young guys. And I want to talk first, though, before we get into them. JaVale has been really good.
Really good.
He's been really, really good. And that is such a credit to him. Like, he's not just like meme good. He's not like, oh yeah, this is like kind of cool. JaVale's good. Like, he's actually been really good. He's a significant part of why their defense has been what it has been so far when he's been on the floor. When he's in position to protect the rim, it's really hard to finish through him. He still does have that like occasional brain fart where he'll miss a rotation. But he's really good. Like, he is a huge part of what they're doing right now. And then if you throw the three best young guys that they have, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Kyle Kuzma, on the floor with JaVale and LeBron, you're talking about a team that's a 5.3 net rating, good on offense, okay on defense, just a solid group. And then if you throw Josh Hart in for Brandon Ingram, which has been the Lakers' second most used lineup, you're talking about a team that has an 11 net rating. It's just a really, really, really interesting kind of, figuring out of how to create lineups around LeBron James this year and around JaVale McGee and really around Tyson Chandler as well, because Tyson has really helped them stem the tide defensively from the early going when he was not on the team and they were playing guys like Jonathan Williams and like super small Kyle Kuzma at the 5, basically.
Well, with JaVale, I mean, it's almost as if, playing, with the Warriors and playing with and being in that kind of environment helps a guy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Almost like it helps a guy mature.
Really? Yeah, it absolutely has. Like, I think he gets a lot of shit for, like, I think people think he's, like, dumb and stuff like that. And, like, that's not the case at all. And I think it's pretty unfair. So, but, like,
he's definitely not dumb.
Yeah, but, like, that's definitely the rep, though, don't you think? Like, among fans, is like, right. This guy does stupid shit on the floor all the time. Like, no, I mean, like, I've been in, not like a crazy amount of scrums with him, but, like, I've been in, like, scrums with him. I've never talked to him one-on-one, but every time that I've been in there and, like, heard him talk, I've been very impressed with what he says. Right.
No, he's a guy who, I don't think is dumb at all. In fact, I think he's kind of crazy like a fox. And, but the thing about it is I think that he's a guy who has really transformed, him and Tyson Chandler, has really transformed his defense.
Yeah.
And, JaVale and Tyson Chandler have both helped LeBron a lot defensively because LeBron doesn't have to, protect the rim like he was doing in the first 3 weeks before they got Tyson Chandler. So JaVale's been great at protecting the rim. I was watching it today. I mean, guys are having all sorts of problems finishing over him. Same thing with Tyson Chandler. And it's helped because, the Laker guards have defended. Lonzo Ball's defended, and it'll be interesting to see, what happens as the season goes on. But I mean, he's been, a real run and jump threat, a real threat around the rim defensively, and he's been really good. There's no question about it. He's seriously been good.
Yeah, like, it's not like fake good. He's actually a useful basketball player for the Los Angeles Lakers. And, they have had, just looking through it now, they have 9 lineups that have played at least 20 minutes together. And it is interesting to me that 3 of those top 4 lineups include Lonzo Ball. Lonzo, to me, has been a very, very useful basketball player in the way that he can just kind of keep the offense moving. Like, he's just such a great one-touch passer. So great at outlet passing, so great at all the little stuff that everyone talks about Lonzo, and he is a very, very good team defender. I do think that he does get blown by a little bit more than what some people say defensively. Like, quicker guards can kind of get past him, but he more than makes up for it. Like, he is absolutely a plus defender because he is so good at just creating havoc on the floor and blowing up possessions in help defense and blowing up possessions, doubling post players and then recovering back out. And he's just awesome on that end of the floor whenever his guy doesn't have the ball.
And the thing about it is he's a phenomenal rebounder, and he's an unselfish guy. Like, you're not going to hear, like, this kid is never going to make waves. He's not going to complain about shots. He's going to go out there and he's going to do exactly, what's needed to be done. I've always liked Lonzo, and I think that he's a guy that if he can get that jump shot to the point where he's 35, 36, 37% from three, he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Brandon Ingram has had kind of a funky year too, I want to mention, because on one hand, like, his numbers are basically in line with what they were last year, which was, I guess, like, something, I don't want to say it was like a breakout year, but it was a really, really good year that portended a lot of positive stuff for him going forward. Most people thought coming into the year that he would be like a potential all-star by the time he's like 23, 24 years old, maybe. Numbers are right in line. 16 points again, 5 rebounds again. He's not assisting on as many possessions, but I think that's mostly because he doesn't have the ball in his hands as much. Shooting 47% last season, 46% this season, 39% from three last season, 37% from three this season, still on limited attempts. Free throw rate, 68% last year, 67.8% this year. It's all basically in line. But when I watch the Lakers, there's something weird about the way that he operates within the flow of their offense to me, because, like, teams still don't really respect him as a shooter, and it still does create, like, some small, like, spacing oddities, I guess is the way to put it for them, because he's a guy that is very good with the ball in his hands, and he's a very good secondary option to have on the floor. But when you have Kuzma out there who can go get you a bucket, and you have LeBron out there who can go get you a bucket, and you can run like Alonzo, JaVale, like pick and roll as a way to go get a bucket. And Josh Hart, you can throw in there, and he can knock down a catch and shoot like spot three, which I think is why the Lakers have been so good replacing Brandon Ingram with Josh Hart in those lineups. So kind of where are you at on Brandon Ingram right now? Because, like, he's been good, but it's just like a weird fit, I think.
Well, I think that he's so talented that you got to keep force feeding him, because he can develop into a legit number 2 guy. I think Cal's a number 3 guy. Alonzo's a guy who's probably going to be starter good. So Brandon's a guy that could be an all-star. He's still only 21. He's legit 6'10". He's so long. He can make shots. He can do a lot of things. And he can do a lot of things for you and on both ends of the floor. I don't know how much they stagger him and LeBron. But I'd like to see him on the floor a lot with the second unit, so that it's his show. And I agree with you. There are some times where, things look odd with him, but, at the same time, he's so talented that you have to roll. He's so talented that you got to roll with some of the bad, for so much of the good, that he does. He's starting to get a little chippy streak as well.
I kind of like it, to be honest.
I do too, because for so long he's been, a quiet, unassuming kid. So that part I actually like. He's starting to stand up for himself a little bit. I mean, he went way too far with the Houston thing. But he's a guy that I just think that he's so talented that you gotta ride him, and you gotta develop him and kind of see where it goes with him.
Yeah, you mentioned the idea of staggering him and LeBron a little bit more. 88% of Brandon Ingram's minutes this year have come with LeBron on the floor.
Yeah, I'd put that down to about 65 to 70. Like, I know why they want to do it, because, I mean, you want to kind of be on the floor with him and kind of, not have that burden on his shoulder. But I think he's good enough that you can run him with the second unit. My whole thing with the Lakers is I like this team as is, and I like it a lot less when Rajon Rondo is healthy, because Rajon doesn't have the self-awareness to just get out of the way. If he's going to be on the floor, he's got to run the show.
Yeah.
And
the craziest thing about this is, too, like, Lonzo's minutes are also at, like, 89% of his minutes being with LeBron.
Yeah.
So, like, at least one of those two, I would run more with the second unit. Like, it can be either, I think. I would probably default with Brandon. I agree with you. But, yeah, like, I'm with you on that. Like, I would attach Kuzma a little bit more to LeBron, and that's
LeBron, right?
Yeah, that's what they've done. Their most commonly played two-man lineup is Kuzma and LeBron. But yeah, like I think that with Brandon, I would want him being. It helps him develop, I think, to run the second unit too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you want to force feed him, and you want to get him to the point where he's a legit star in his own right. Yeah. Like, he's the guy on the roster. He's the guy that's on the roster, that's on team control, that's not named LeBron James, that can be an all-star.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let's talk about college, guys. This is what you love, Tony. You love to talk NBA draft as much as I do. And
yes.
Who has stood out to you? Like, I guess that we can do it this way. Like, among the guys, you have a certain preconception going in as much as I do. Who has stood out for you in a positive manner that you have not expected to be as good as what he is?
Ooh, okay. Well, Bol Bol.
Oh man, do I disagree with that?
You disagree with that?
Oh, I don't think.
I think he's been terrific.
You'll see what I'm writing on Monday or Tuesday. Probably Tuesday this week. Oh boy, Bol Bol. Bol Bol's gonna get a general manager fired. I have no question in my mind.
Okay, let's go beyond Bol Bol then.
But no. Let's talk. Why do you like what you've seen from Bol Bol?
Well, because he's 7'2" and he can stretch the floor and he can block shots.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is true. The stuff that I like from him that I've seen before, like him being down here in Southern California, playing for California Supreme and all that stuff. Like I've seen him real strong amount, basically. I did not think he could handle like he can handle. Like he can get out on the break and legit lead the break. And pull up after leading the break from 18 feet. That stuff is crazy to me. He's the most situational player in the draft, I think, because if you put him in a scheme where you want to switch a lot of actions, he can't guard anyone.
No, he can't guard anyone.
So you basically are Portland should have him very high on their board because they play soft pick and roll coverage. They allow their center to just shut down the paint. Utah, I think, could have Bol pretty high as well. They're not switching Rudy out onto guys. They're comfortable kind of making it work, switching around their 5-man. But if you put him in a situation like Golden State, for instance.
Or Houston.
He can't do that.
Right.
So... And a lot of other stuff too, he does a lot of lazy shit on the floor. He gets winded after 6 minutes and then can't do anything. There are questions there for me still. I think I've probably I had him at 14 coming into the year. I've probably slid him up a little bit, but he's maybe top 10 for me. I'm not all in on Bol yet.
So you're not on the Bol train?
No, not yet.
Okay. Where are we on Roy Hachimura?
About where I had him coming into the year. I had him in the top 10 coming into the year. Probably would have him right around there. I mean, I've written the story on Rui, I love that kid. I've talked to him 10 times in the last 18 months. He's awesome. He's a great athlete. He has NBA size. I am very worried about the defense. That's just being real. I am worried about the fact that he seems to struggle when he gets put on an island against guards. and he seems to often be at his best as like kind of a small ball five. You could say like Brandon Clark's kind of their small ball five, but Clark defensively kind of helps out a little bit more than everyone else, and runs out to the perimeter and recovers and does everything else. So like I'd say Rui is more of their defensive five, and I don't really know if he can do that at the next level.
Okay, so my question with this: Are you scared? Are you scared to take Ja Morant in the lottery?
Oh, I've only watched one of their games so far. I am scared to take anyone that skinny in the lottery. Yeah,
he does need to. He does need to. But I think the kid can go.
He can. He can definitely go.
I think he can go. Like, I think he can play. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, like I think he had a triple-double last night. He had 29, 13, and 12.
He's really skinny, though.
He's very, very skinny. He fights in battles, though, man. Like, he plays super hard. He wants to defend. He attacks the glass at, like, such a high level. He made 6 threes last night. Like, if he's going to make... I'll put it this way. If he's going to make threes at, like, a 38% clip, I'm less worried about taking him in the lottery.
Okay.
I will be. I had him as like a late first round guy coming into the year. I'll probably slide him up to like top 20 or so.
I'm scared of Naz Reid.
Terrified.
I'm terrified of Naz Reid.
I think he's a backup center though in the NBA.
Okay, whatever. I mean, my question is that I'm just like, he has a load of talent and a load of athletic ability. I don't think he can defend.
Yeah.
I don't think he's never going to be able to defend on the floor. He's never going to be able to protect the rim. I mean, I think you're right. I think he's a backup center.
What do you think of Rui? I didn't get your take on Rui.
I'd feel a lot better than him if he can develop into a 35% three-point shooter.
I agree with that. Yeah. I think.
But I will say this.
I don't know if he can do that or not. That's hard.
I don't think he can do it now, but I do think that the fact that he's developed from 15, he's developed his game out to 15 to 18. The fact that he's done that in 2 years, that's encouraging to me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Who else?
Because it tells me that he works on his game.
Yeah, definitely a worker. No qualms there.
And he's a really, really great athlete. I mean, he was, obviously he's not purely the athlete that Zion Williamson is, but he was every bit as physical as Zion when he went up against him.
Yeah, like he doesn't have that explosiveness, but he's fluid. Right. The thing that's most underrated about him is just how strong he is. He is like their strongest guy on that team by far. Like, I think he might have been their strongest player like last season. Like, he continues to just like put on good weight that doesn't really affect his quickness or explosiveness. So that I like.
I'm scared of every guy that's currently in a UCLA uniform.
Yeah, I agree. They're not very good.
I'm scared of all those guys. Every last one of them. I was really on the. Man.
I like Chris Wilkes. You're going to say Chris Wilkes, right?
I like Chris, but I mean, he's not well coached.
Yeah, but like here's so. I'm going to go to bat for Steve Alford, which is just begging for my mentions to die. He has to deal with Jalen Hands. Jalen Hands is not very good. I like, at least at this level. He's a good basketball player, like for most levels, but he is just the worst defender. Go and watch how much he struggles to contain penetration. Go and watch what Kobe White did to them, for instance, and go and watch what Dyshawn, what the fuck is the kid's name from Deshaun Booker, I think is the kid's name from Long Beach. Go watch what he did to like Jalen Hands and their defense. It's a joke. He can't do anything defensively. He also doesn't really pass the ball all that well. Likes to dominate the ball. Like, the most impactful injury in the Pac-12 this year, really I wouldn't say like most impactful injury in the country, because like fucking Darius Garland's hurting right now. Right. But like Tiger Campbell going down like really hurt UCLA.
That screwed them.
Yeah, because he's really a very underrated player, and not having him makes their life a lot tougher.
Well, he's the only guy on that roster that can get guys in the right spot, get them in a set, and get them to run the set.
Yeah, right.
And Tiger, obviously he played for Lamere, and he's not afraid to look at Moses Brown and Chris Wilkes and be like, no, we're going to do this.
That, and he can throw an entry pass to Moses Brown too when Moses gets a chance.
Good Lord, because nobody else can.
Yeah, and like Moses terrifies me too. I mean,
Moses terrifies me.
Yeah. I don't know if he'll be one and done or not.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope that he is not, because he needs to put on good weight. Yeah, I don't know what to do with UCLA. They're messy right now. Trying to think who else has been impressive. Eric Paschall has struggled a little bit more than what I thought he would this year. He came off a great summer. Like, I had him like right outside of the first round, but like I think that I hoped to move him up and haven't, because he has not been efficient enough offensively to make it worthwhile. I know who I want to talk about. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He has been awesome so far this year. He has been absolutely awesome.
I think he's been good. I like him.
He was terrific against Purdue, and he was really good against Northeastern.
The thing I like about Nickeil is that he's playing for Buzz Williams.
Yeah.
And I think Buzz is a terrific coach.
Yep.
And I think Buzz gets people better. And the thing about Nickeil, I think he's gotten better over the summer. Like, I think he's legit improved.
Well, the big thing that he's improved is strength. Like, skill-wise, like, we knew he could shoot.
Skill-wise was always there.
We knew he could pass. Yep. Like, we knew that he could do all that stuff. I think he's better defensively. He can take contact more now, and that ability to take contact more has significantly helped the way that he plays on offense.
Yeah, agreed. And then, that's the other thing. Keldon Johnson's impressed me.
Yeah, he's super tough.
DeAndre Hunter, I love that kid.
Yeah, he was my top returning college prospect. I love that dude.
I don't like Shamori Pons.
Okay, why not? That's interesting.
Shamori doesn't pass the ball. I just don't think that, that's, and for what he does, I think he needs to be 3 inches taller.
It would help.
You know what I mean?
It'd certainly help.
Where are you at with Tremont Waters?
I don't know. Like, I don't really think he's a prospect. Like, I don't want to say he's not a prospect, but like, he's certainly not like a top 40 prospect or anything like high. Like, I would take like Dylan Windler ahead of him at Belmont, which, like, if I'm doing that, like, I think Dylan's like a good second round prospect who might go like top 40. So like, I don't like he's too small. He doesn't really defend. Yeah. He can't finish inside.
He can shoot, and he can get from point A to point B.
Can he shoot? Can he?
Well, you're right. Well, a lot of the shots he ends up being contested because he's 5'9".
Right. Like, that's the problem, though. So like, he's shooting 26% from 3 this year. Like, he can't. I don't know how he scores efficiently. And if you're that small, because he's probably 5'9" without shoes.
Yeah.
You have to be able to score efficiently off the dribble, and you have to be able to really, really distribute. And I like the fact that through the first 3 games, or like 4 games maybe, he was really, really good at distributing without turning the ball over. But the 2 best defenses he played in his last 2 games that are long and athletic and can cause him problems, Florida State and then Oklahoma State today. I watched that game because it lost me money. He was really bad with turnovers. He turned it over 6 times in both games, and really they struggled to get in and out of their set.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What about you? Where are you at with him?
With Tremont?
Yeah.
I'm about the same place as you are. I like Tremont. I like James Akinjo as well.
But like, okay, he is to me a little bit better than James Akinjo.
Yeah.
Right. And like, Akinjo is good. He's not really great yet. Like, I think he's a way underrated prospect. I'll say that. but or like a way underrated recruit. But I don't know. Like Tremont's fine. Like I don't mean to shit on Tremont Waters. Like I think he's a really, really good college basketball player. But he's just fine to me in terms of the next level.
So what are we doing with Zion Williamson?
Number one. like I talked about this on the podcast with Chris Stone last week, maybe the first week, something like that. I'd take him number one. I think there are still some things he'll need to like prove to certainly go number one. Mainly passing the medical stuff. As long as he passes medicals, I think he will go number one. So until then, we'll see.
6'6", 280. He's like a Charles Barkley with 40-inch verticals.
Yeah, like you watch him, like he literally could dunk the ball if the rim was at the top of the square. Like it's unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And where are you at on Reddish? Let's talk about him because let's just talk about all three of the Duke guys, and we'll finish with the Duke guys.
I love Cam. I think he's super talented. I think he's a prototypical wing. I think that he's been better defensively.
He has. That's a great point, I think.
I think he's been good defensively.
It was weird to me that they chose not to close with him against Gonzaga.
I did. I thought that was weird, but I mean, he's top 5. I mean, I don't think you can pass up on that. I know some of the issues that he has with assertiveness. I don't think playing on this Duke team helps that, especially playing with RJ Barrett.
Let's transition into RJ. Oh boy, I'm with you on Cam. Like Cam, I think to me, he's my number 3 prospect right now. Like he's a stud. Like he's totally awesome. RJ,
but see, I'm not sure. Like for me, like him and Kevin Porter are tied at 3.
Kevin Porter. So I saw Kevin Porter against Vanderbilt. He's like top 10 for me. If you like go see him live and like you see like what like Enfield has to like grab him and like put him in position half the time, and then like he doesn't understand like how to naturally space the floor yet. It's just like small stuff though. It's stuff that'll be figured out, I think. But I don't know. Like I said on the last podcast that the line between like Nick Young and James Harden is thinner than you would think, right? It's like shot efficiency and being able to be like a bull going toward the basket. Kevin has the ability to go be a bull toward the basket, but in like general feel is the other thing too. I'm not sure he's there on like the feel and like honestly the shooting efficiency too. Like I'm not 100% sure how good of a shooter he is yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that he's a shot creator.
Yeah, he is.
No question. That's what I love about him.
But what do you think of RJ? And we'll finish on RJ because he's like outside of Zion. I think he's the most interesting prospect now.
Is it possible for a kid that is so good as he is to need some self-awareness issues? To need some self-awareness?
Well, I mean, you watched the last 4 possessions of that Duke Gonzaga game, and he had no awareness in terms of, hey, I have 2 other top 5 picks and another first-round pick in Trey Jones, in my opinion, on the team. Maybe I should pass it off. Like,
but part of me was like, yo,
just like the nuts on this dude.
This guy really has Zion Williamson on one side and Trey Jones at the top of the key and Cam Reddish on the other side, and he doesn't give a shit about any of them.
No, he just went for it. He's like, no, I'm gonna score. Yeah, I mean, like, I had an assistant text me. I wrote this in the thing I wrote on Duke during their first game against Kentucky that, like, he was looking off guys at a rate you would not want to see. Because it was kind of hard for me to tell, like, being there and so much was going on. And then I, like, went back and watched and I was like, oh, yeah, he's kind of selfish. Like, he's, maybe he'll figure it out. Like, this could work. And then the Gonzaga game happened. And even, like, he's missed 75 shots and Zion Williamson's taken 74. Like, total. That's a problem. Regardless of where we're at. Like, that's a significant issue. Like, he needs to figure out that honestly, he needs to figure out he's not the best player on the team. You know what I mean? Like, Zion's their best player.
But he's still their best scorer. And
Is he?
I think I do. I still think I think he's their best scorer, and B, I think that he's the guy who gives them the best chance in isolation.
Yeah.
Which is where that was. Now, the problem is...
Why are you running ISO?
I don't disagree with the fact... Like, I agree with the fact that he should have... Like, that should have been... Okay, boom. Like, he's got to have the ball. But what I don't agree with is... Well, guess what? When they collapse on you and there's 4 guys on you...
Yeah.
You got to pitch that thing out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. 100%. I have RJ at 2. I think he's still one of the safest guys to take in this draft. We know he's going to be good at some level in the NBA. He's a hard worker, but that was bad luck. We'll say that. That was bad luck. Tony, tell the people what you've got coming up this week.
Well, we're going to be on the road, and I got good stuff coming up on Derek Favors and how selfless he is. And I got other game action for you, and it should be fun.
This has been the Game Theory Podcast. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Android, wherever you get good podcasting content. We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll podcast with Dieter Kurtenbach. We'll talk about probably some more Eastern Conference teams because we spent a lot of time on the West today. But until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.